The year is 2025. It's the year that the UK Supreme Court declares that trans women are in fact not women. A world-shattering, earth-quaking policy that wiped through the UK and changed the lives of all transgender people. This is my deep dive into everything transphobic that JK Rowling has ever done. And we are on episode, is it 6? Not me losing count. I think it might be episode 6. 2025 is the year. And I have some bad news for you though, folks. I did lose the original footage from the episode I filmed for this version. So as many of you know, I filmed this entire series in one go. Hence why in all of the episodes, I still have my original blonde hair and not my pink tips, sorry. But I lost that original footage, as well as the creator I was impersonating or parodying at the time. And honestly, I just felt like it was weird to try and do that all again. So you just have the normal me today, normal Louise of Matriarmy, covering the year 2025 of everything that JK Rowling did that was transphobic. We'll get back to my bigger deep dives and regularly scheduled program very soon. At the point of filming, I'm planning to do, after everything from today, an Erica Ishii deep dive, because they are an absolute national treasure. They've achieved so much, and as a queer person and openly queer person, I just think they're a fantastic person to cover. Honestly, a bit of an icon. So I can't wait to get into that, and I'm going to start that project after filming and editing and releasing this. So get a bevy, get a little snack. It's not going to be the longest year, but there is still some really important stuff to cover. This is also from the point of time where I had started making videos covering this. So if you want to know anything more about some of the main topics I cover, you can always go back into my channel and see those. Without further ado, let's get into today's episode. To start this year off, on the 6th of February, the blissfully unaware JK Rowling tweeted in response to the picture of Donald Trump saying, "Congratulations to every single person on the left who's been campaigning to destroy women's and girls' rights. Without you, there'd be no images like this." Unaware to the fact that she is more adjacent to the far right than anyone she is targeting on the left here. On the 28th of February, she responds to Tom Willett, who said trans women are women, with "explain what makes them trans," which also just doesn't actually make sense, but okay. On the 6th of April, Rowling slammed International Asexuality Awareness Day, calling it International Fake Oppression Day. So now even the asexuals are catching strays. It turns out that Rowling's beef extends beyond trans and intersex people, extending to even more identities under the LGBTQ+ umbrella that she simply doesn't understand. The response to a post from the LGBTQ+ hotline switchboard that celebrated International Asexuality Awareness Day, the author called it International Fake Oppression Day. Rather than listening to the people that explained in the comments to her that asexuality is very much a real thing, Rowling doubled down, as she's apt to do, referring to asexual people as straight people who don't fancy a quickie. Kind of gross. On the 17th of April, JK Rowling tweeted, "I love it when a plan comes together. Hashtag Supreme Court, hashtag women's rights, with a drink and a cigar, what looks like on a yacht." On the 30th of April, hundreds of UK actors signed a letter condemning transphobia, including the future Harry Potter star Papa Essiedu. The UK Supreme Court ruled that trans women are not legally considered women and trans men are not legally considered men, the culmination of a year-long transphobic cultural campaign that has undoubtedly been driven forward in part by Rowling. The decision banned trans women, men and non-binary people from using the bathroom and locker room that is most comfortable for them, putting gender-variant people in a vulnerable position as pointed out by the letter. Aside from driving forward the normalisation of transphobia in the UK, Rowling donated more than $70,000 to For Women Scotland, an anti-trans organisation responsible for bringing the lawsuit that resulted in the decision to the Supreme Court. May 27th, Rowling creates a legal fund for cis women trying to ban trans women from public life. Beyond pushing transphobia in the UK's cultural mainstream, Rowling is literally funding the fight against trans rights. The author established the JK Rowling Women's Fund as a means of funding lawsuits by cis women in legal battles regarding what she calls women's sex-based rights. According to the website, it offers legal funding support to individuals and organisations fighting to retain women's sex-based rights in the workplace, in public life, and in protected female spaces. Rowling has gone on to say that she is considering opening the fund to single-sex prison cases after a cis woman claimed she suffered after being incarcerated with a trans woman. Rowling repeatedly misgendered the trans women in question when speaking about the case. Research shows that incarcerated trans women face disproportionate levels of harassment and violence. On the 21st of May, a tweet said, "This is Katie Grass, a 19-year-old lesbian who stopped in at a McDonald's in Carpentersville, Illinois, when she tried using the female restroom and was beat unconscious by an adult and a minor who also used homophobic slurs. This is America 2025. Aidan Comerford rightly said, "Hi, JK Rowling. A couple of weeks ago, Graham Lynham tweeted that if you saw someone who you thought was trans in a woman's toilet, you should punch them. That tweet got 5,000 likes. This is what violence against women who don't conform to cis-het standards looks like." Comment? In a separate tweet on the 25th of May, JK Rowling responds to Soul Tweets, saying, "We had it when we set up Baylor's Place too. Quote, I am a woman with PCOS and have a full beard. Will you still let me come for rape counselling?" She says one man told a support worker over the phone in his bass baritone. Strangely, on learning he was being recorded, he hung up. Now, I presume this was a trans woman and she's just misgendering her the whole time. On the 28th of June, Benjamin Ryan tweeted, "Misgendering is cruel and rude, no matter how many edge cases or straw man arguments people can come up with to try to assert otherwise." To which JK Rowling responded, "When you tell a woman she must pretend a man is a woman, you're asserting the right to control her speech and perception of reality, while also trivializing and devaluing her female-specific experience. You're asking her to agree that women is a concept that men can embody at will." This also completely just disregards trans men. Oh, goodness me. On the 7th of August, JK Rowling tweeted, "If you are born with egg-producing equipment, even if faulty, it's proof you are a woman." To which we get another legendary meme of someone replying with, "Behold, a woman," and a picture of a chicken. On the 19th of August, continuing the discussion about trans women and bras, Aidan Comerford said, "Because trans women are women and women talk about bras, I'm sure if I looked through your transphobic female friends' Twitter accounts outside of their incessant transphobia, I would find them talking about bras too. Are they perverts for doing that too?" JK Rowling said, sarcastically, "Yes, when my friends and I are talking on X, bras are definitely something we regularly discuss. It's the perfect place to discuss our underwear. Sometimes, if Brenda hasn't mentioned her bra for a couple of days, I DM her to check she's okay and offer her a front fastener." To which Brenda responded, "I honestly haven't spoken to any friends about bras for several decades. It's up there with the lending tampons trans fetish claptrap. Absolute bullshit." JK Rowling continued, "Are you telling me you don't lug a suitcase full of tampons with you wherever you go in case a fellow woman needs one? Which is totally something all women do." Completely disproportionately sidestepping the entire discussion that trans women will need to talk about bras, and doing so is not a fetish, we have tits. In August 2025, Chris Columbus, who directed the first 2 Harry Potter films, told Variety that Rowling's stance on the LGBTQ+ community was unfortunate. "I certainly don't agree with what she's talking about, but it's just sad. It's very sad." In a characteristic response, Rowling replied to Columbus on X, "Another man who once worked with me declares himself saddened by my beliefs on gender and sex. I thought it might be useful to compile a list of handy references. Which of the following do you imagine makes actors and directors who aren't involved in the HBO reboot of Harry Potter so miserable? Is it my belief that women and girls should have their own public changing rooms and bathrooms? That women should retain female-only rape crisis centres? That men don't belong in women's sports? That female prisoners shouldn't be incarcerated with violent men and male sex offenders? That women should remain a protected class in law because they have sex-specific needs and issues? That language should reflect reality rather than ideological jargon, especially in medical context? That women shouldn't be harassed, persecuted or fired for refusing to pretend humans can change sex? That women should not be threatened with violence and rape when they assert their rights? that freedom of speech and belief are essential to a pluralistic, democratic society, that troubled minors, especially those who are gay, autistic and trauma experienced, should be given mental health support instead of irreversible surgeries and drug treatments on non-existent evidence of benefit, that gay people shouldn't be pressured to include the opposite sex in their dating pool, nor should they be smeared as genital fetishists when they don't, that cross-dressing heterosexual male fetishists aren't actually oppressed, but having the time of their lives piggybacking off gender identity ideology. That said ideology and the privileged, blinkered fools pushing it because they suffer zero consequences themselves have done more damage to the political left's credibility than Trump and Farage could have achieved in a century. Let me have your thoughts. God, this woman is insane. On the 21st of August, Blue Sky suspends multiple trans authors after wishing ill on Rowling. Spreading dangerous misinformation, funding the cultural shift towards violent transphobia, and literally encouraging state violence against trans people hasn't gotten the Harry Potter author banned from any social media platforms. But her critics have been. Multiple trans authors were suspended from Blue Sky for comments against Rowling, including Manhunt writer Gretchen Falcon Martin, writer Jessie Earl, and the World Within author Danny Finn. After Earl posted, "I wish ill on JK Rowling," Finn echoed the sentiment. Falcon Martin posted, "I hope someone splits her skull." They were all suspended from the platform, but Earl and Finn were both reinstated. So that's the state of things on Blue Sky nowadays, Earl wrote. It's okay though, JK Rowling can still actively use her money to harm trans people and also get a multi-billion-dollar TV series, don't worry. On the 25th of September, Emma Watson says she supports trans rights while still cherishing her memories of Rowling. The author responds by saying Watson poured more petrol on the flames. In a graceful show of nuance, actress Emma Watson broke her silence about her ongoing conflict with Rowling over the author's anti-trans views during an episode on a podcast, On Purpose, with Jay Shetty. During the conversation, Shetty brought up statements by Rowling in 2024 about Watson, Radcliffe and Rupert Grint, in which she said the trio of actors had cozied up to the movement intent on eroding women's hard-won rights and who used their platform to cheer on the transitioning of minors for speaking out against the author's takes. Reflecting on Rowling's views, following the end of Harry Potter, Watson said she had held two truths. She stands behind trans people, and she could never cancel the good memories that she had with the author. I really don't believe that by having had that experience and holding the love and support and views that I have, mean that I can't and don't treasure Joe and the person that I had personal experiences with, she said. I will never believe that one negates the other, and that my experience of that person I don't get to keep and cherish. Rowling responded, adults can't expect to cozy up to activist movement that regularly calls for a friend's assassination, then assert their right to the former friend's love, as though the friend was in fact their mother. Emma is rightly free to disagree with me, and indeed to discuss her feelings about me in public, but I had the same right, and I finally decided to exercise it. On the 9th of October, JK Rowling calls the trans movement the men's sexual rights movement by responding to a quote that said, completely false. Please try and understand why the bulk of feminists on this planet reject you, JK. You are literally standing with cis men, protecting the patriarchy and the status quo. Trans women are not part of the patriarchy. None of the LGBTQ+ is a part of the patriarchy. All of the LGBTQ+ are our biggest partners and allies against the oppression of women that you speak of. Again, with the pornified bullshit, you are dehumanizing other human beings. One of the most anti-feminist things you could possibly do. Well said, Michelle Wright. To which JK responded, you're shilling for a men's sexual rights movement that pushes the medieval idea that one can be born in the wrong body on kids. Insane. On the 27th of October, in response to Concerned Citizen that said originally, and I quote, she, in parentheses JK Rowling, believes if you're born a man then you can never become a woman. Biologically she's correct, but when you introduce that level of hate into a debate that rationally goes out the window, listen to the Labour MP Carolyn Harris make an absolute fool of herself. JK Rowling responded, it is not hate to speak the truth. It is not hate to defend the rights of women and girls. It is not hate to be deeply worried about an unevidenced medical experience on minors. Rationality goes out the window when you pretend men can be women. On the 30th of October, JK Rowling tweeted, I grew up in an era when mainstream women's magazines told girls they needed to be thinner and prettier. Now mainstream women's magazines tells girls that men are better women than they are. Rowling calls the dolls men after a group of trans women get awarded Glamour UK Women of the Year. Glamour UK released its yearly Women of the Year awards and corresponding covers, in which they honoured a group of trans women affectionately dubbed the dolls. In this tweet, JK Rowling just chose violence and said, "I hereby publicly announce that I am non-trinary. I identify as not man, not woman, and not non-binary because Laurie Penny just trashed that brand. I will be treating all questions on my new identity as though the asker is demanding nudes. You have been warned." Forgot to say, pronouns are three-threm. Not funny at all. She should not be a comedian. I can say that for nothing. In response to the Girl Guides rejecting trans girls from being able to join them, JK Rowling responded to someone asking who does this help by saying, "It helps girls. It tells girls they have a right to things of their own. It tells girls they have the right to say no. It reminds girls that the desires of boys do not supersede their feelings, their rights, their discomfort, or their safety." On the 11th of December, @Cassie Moans said, "A trans woman is a real woman. A trans woman is not a man in a dress and makeup." To which JK Rowling replied with 5 paragraphs, saying, "Please explain to me what differentiates a trans woman from a man in a dress and makeup, because I've been paying close attention to trans activists for a decade now, and most common explanation I've been given is, he says he's a woman, so play along or you're evil." Runner-up explanations: a man is a trans woman if he puts a lot of effort into looking like a woman. However, a man who's made no such effort is just as valid as a trans woman as one who does. Trans women with beards and penises are completely valid. The existence of men and women with differences of sexual development, intersex people, prove that a completely different group of people who don't have such disorders are trans if they say they are. I mean, they do? Okay, fine. The true mark of who's a man and a woman isn't biological sex, but the untested gender identity that resides in all human beings, whether or not they believe in it. At the same time, trans people must be given easy, automatic access to cross-sex hormones and surgeries so they can alter themselves to more closely resemble the opposite biological sex. Yeah, literally just, yeah, though. Also, who does that harm? My goodness. So someone to that tweet then said, "Is JK Rowling aware that there are cisgendered women with facial hair? Likewise, there are men who don't have facial hair. Am I a woman because I'm smooth shaven? This argument is based on stupidity and heavily flawed. But what else can you expect from the anti-trans crowd?" To which she then responded, "Yes, I'm aware that some women have facial hair and that some men don't have facial hair. No, you're not a woman because you're smooth shaven. It's unclear whether you think your argument or mine is based on stupidity and heavily flawed, so let's put that one to a vote." So what she's doing here is completely avoiding the discussion at hand, stupidly replying with this fake faux comedy so her followers can see it. She hasn't actually joined the debate at all. And last but not least, on the 18th of December, retweeting her original entry into the TERF army, the Dress However You Can tweet, she said, "Merry Turfmas, everyone. Thank you so much for watching this entire series. I hope it's been informative. I also wanted to have it as a kind of online encyclopedia almost, so you can always go back to it if you need. But also, I get this kind of sense that with the HBO Harry Potter reboot, they're going to try and downplay some of JK Rowling's transphobia. You're already seeing a few people like Dave Chappelle go back and be like, "I didn't know what I was doing was so problematic, blah, blah, blah." I have this feeling in the future, I don't know how long it will be, but JK Rowling will eventually try and downplay her act in all of this, or her part in all of this. So I wanted to have this online so that we can hold her accountable, and anyone around her that's saying, like, what she did wasn't that bad, what did she even do? Like, I just wanted a kind of paper print online in video form. Is that paper print? I don't know. But I hope you've enjoyed the process as much as I have, and we will see how 2026 ends. And as I say, I will probably do that episode then. So look forward to that. Anyway, until then, I love you all so much. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.